Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are out there. Again, guys, welcome back to Merchant Services Slayers. And again, my name is Carson Cook, and thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Today, guys, I want to talk about a very, very important topic. And this topic's actually, guys, related to why I'm wearing a Superman t-shirt and a stupid hat. Actually lost a deal competition with one of my guys on the team, but excited that we actually ended up having a super good rally, very, very successful campaign as far as for getting deals closed and the books installed and funding and so on and so forth. So pretty excited about it. But anyway, it gives me a good opportunity to actually do a video looking like this, and then also kind of like I said, lost a little bit of a bet. So actually, it does fall right in line, guys, with the topic that I want to discuss today. Something that's very, very important, especially if you're a newer agent within merchant services, credit card processing, or for sales in general. Anything that's face-to-face or anything that has high levels of different forms of communication, whether it's verbal, auditory, kinesthetic, which happens to be our specialty. Face-to-face, B2B, business-to-business sales with merchants, people that are highly contacted, super competitive, that are contacted a lot, that have a lot of different issues with, all sorts of different things that are going on with their business. So today, the topic that I really want to talk about is what we call and understand the 7-second bias. Okay, so I'm going to describe that today to everybody, why it's an important concept to first understand, especially within communication and psychology, but then also 3 different ways that we can take that information and apply it and take it to the bank for merchant services, or how to sell merchant services within understanding that first concept. Okay, and this concept is huge at the very beginning of the sale. And it's important in many different key aspects when you're dealing with business-to-business sales or sales and communication in general, okay? Now, the 7-second bias is based off of the idea of first impressions. So being the fact that right now, if this is the first video that you've seen of me, there's a good chance that you're going to have a bias towards me given the certain attire that I'm wearing currently. And you're going to be making an impression based off of me and everything I say in the distant future within the 7 seconds of you meeting me. You either meeting me, watching my content, watching my videos, and that initial foundation that you've built upon you judging and understanding the content that I say, or even myself, or anything, is based within those first 7 seconds. So again, if I was doing this naked, it'd make a huge impression. If I was doing this like this, it makes a different impression. If I was in my pajamas, wouldn't necessarily mean that we're in a professional situation. And it's super important to understand. So first off, before we get into these 3 different ideas around how this would relate to selling merchant services, credit card processing, or anything else for that matter in B2B sales, we first have to understand what the 7-second bias is, okay? And the 7-second bias is within the first 7 seconds of meeting someone brand new face-to-face, they are internalizing and automatically, as a defense mechanism, actually creating a foundational structure or perception of you or whoever's communicating within the first 7 seconds that they will build every other judgment, predetermination, bias on for the future, okay? Now, it's important to understand what that means. You have 7 seconds to make a good impression upon someone. Okay, now there's a lot of different examples that I love to use about this one. First one that I love to use when we actually talk about our training is a friendship situation, okay? Now a friendship situation is this. Let's pretend that you are good friends with someone and you're meeting them at an event, let's say a dinner party, okay? And this is the power of the first 7 seconds. So you're having deep conversation with someone, another friend comes up to you and then invites you to another friend. And when they come up to you and invite you to another friend, okay, you continue on with the conversation, you talk with them and you look at them and you say, oh, thanks, nice to meet you, it's great meeting you, awesome, okay, anyway, by the way, and then you ignore that person. That first 7 seconds, that person thinks that you're not a very good communicator. They think that you're very rude because you acknowledged them, but you didn't really interact with them, you didn't smile, you didn't pay any attention to them whatsoever, and you went right back into your story, which then gives them the perception or the idea that at that given moment, that particular story is more important than them. Now let's pretend that we become good friends. Okay, I now become good friends with this person and we set up some sort of friendship, right? This person that I just ignored. Then we get to the very end of something and let's say I do something detrimental to ruin the relationship. We get into a confrontation. Will they give me a second chance? Well, if that first 7-second foundational bias is not really strong, there's been a lot of other circumstances that led up to that moment where they've always said, well, hey, you know, from the moment I met him, he was an asshole, okay, or he was not a good person. At that point, okay, they might not give me a second chance, okay, and that's super important. That was the power of the first 7 seconds. Same exact situation now, but instead of me telling the story and this person comes up and says, hey, well, this is John, instead of me going, hey, John, how you doing? And bye anyway, and then getting back to the story, I go, oh, well, hold on 1 second. Let me finish that 1 second. Hey, John, nice to meet you. So where are you from? Okay, that's great. So you're friends with Tina here. Oh, that's amazing. Great. Well, cool. Great. Well, it's nice to meet you. You know, I appreciate you, you know, coming to the party or whatever. And, you know, there's food over there. That's great. Da, da, da. And then you can say, well, anyway, and then you get back to your story. They're going to say, well, the first 7 seconds with that person was great. So the same trail of process happens. I become good friends with them. We finally get to that point where maybe I do something to detriment the relationship, but then at the end of the day, they say, hey, will I give Carson a second chance? More than likely, yes, because now they've leaned on that side of, you know, I've always given him a second chance, so on and so forth. That's the power of the first 7 seconds to lay the foundation for future communication. Now, how does that relate to us in merchant services, okay, in credit card processing? Well, first off, in a highly competitive industry, in a highly competitive environment, face-to-face with not only a business owner or even a board of directors for a larger business, or you know, not a conglomerate, but let's just say a corporation where there's a board, and you have to convince a multitude of people to go with your processing. Okay, it's important to have an extremely well-defined first good 7-second bias with them. Okay, whether it's walking into a board meeting for a presentation, meeting them for the first time when you set the appointment, meeting them for the second time when you've actually gone into the steps of the sale. And we're going to talk about 3 different ways that you can help yourself set yourself up for this, okay, and create a very good 7-second bias. Now, there's a lot of stuff out there too that'll help you create good first impressions. Use the customer's first name if you know them. Smile, shake their hand. This is all stuff that you can learn in a book that I highly recommend. It's very good. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Daniel Carnegie. It's an extremely good book. It's been out for over 100 years now. Extremely good stuff for good first impressions. And they talk a little bit about the first bias, so the first 7-second bias, I think, in there a little bit. They hint to it. Now, how are we going to attribute this to the first part of the sale in merchant services, credit card processing? How do we sell this? Well, first off, we're going to talk about, number 1, is how to set up your, what we call counsel space. How to set up your counsel space and why that's important when you're actually going into a business, not only to prospect for an appointment or to go into sell a processing deal. Then number 2, we're going to talk about the confident introduction, a simple but yet extremely important step that heavily relies upon the 7-second bias. And then number 3, we'll end it off with what we call a narrative hook, which is super important to understand when we're selling. So first off, setting up your counsel space is important. What is a counsel space? As a hypnotist, they set up a counsel space. As a counselor, you set up a counsel space. As a therapist, you set up a counsel space. And if you haven't noticed, all of these particular spaces are designed for the patient to receive knowledge and information, okay, from the counselor. But most of the time, the counselor does 90% of the listening, while the patient does most of the talking. That puts them in a position where they set up that space to where the information delivered from the professional, which AKA would be you as a sales professional, takes on a higher precedence, right? It's like the things that we say are extremely important because we say so few things. The top level sales performers will actually do a lot less talking than they do listening. They're qualifying constantly and they're gathering that information. But in order to make all of this completely relevant within selling, processing, whether you sell Clover, this or that, or any type of situation, you have to set up your counsel space to the most efficient way possible. Now, of course, in B2B sales, you can say, Carson, well, they're cleaning the floors, they're cooking, they're doing this, they're doing that. There's a board meeting, half the board members are missing. You need to just do your best. Ask yourself, would this be a place where this merchant or this particular person I'm trying to sell will actually listen and retain the information that I'm delivering? The counsel space is important. It's like your stage. Now, a good example that I give with this too is that you could be the world's best communicator, the world's best salesman. You could be a mix between Jordan Belfort and Grant Cardone and anyone that's been on the Boiler Room or someone that's extremely proficient with communication. But if you're pitching in the shower, no one will hear you, okay? No one can hear you. So the point is you have to set up your counsel space. And a good way to do that is I love to approach a customer, say, I'll be right over there, okay, or hey, I'm here, or wave, and get them to approach me. When they approach me, it's like them approaching a customer that's in their store. It's like them allowing them to give them their space to finish the task they're currently on. They're also waiting on you, so they actually feel like they're obligated to come over and assist you, whether you have the appointment or not. They come into your space. It's like them coming into your territory, even if you're on their business. So don't bum rush or immediately come up to a merchant and start pitching them and throwing information at them, even if you have an appointment because you're excited. You're not going to close the deal. You're setting yourself up with an extremely negative 7-second bias, and it's going to be a battle through the whole way through. So make yourself aware, make yourself present, figure out a space within that business, look around and say, okay, where can we pitch? Where can we sit down, take advantage of this sit so I can set myself up for a proper presentation of our product to highly and effectively communicate my message to the merchant, but then also highly effectively allow them to give me the information I need to close the deal later. Okay, so set up your council space. I love to walk in and give my council space and say, can we go sit over here? Will that be okay so we can sit down? Okay, or if you're outside, can we go inside? If we're inside and it's too loud, can we go outside? Listen, learn, be aware of your environment, set yourself up to pitch the merchant in a good council space. Number 2, have a confident introduction set up. The confident introduction is extremely important when we're selling to people in the field, okay? This is a set script that is built with some level of formality to begin with, to build up presence, whether you're in a suit or a tie, definitely not what I'm wearing right now, right? With a specific process of displaying the steps of the sale, okay? And then the narrative hook, which is step number 3, and I'll bring that into existence. You have to have this confident introduction and process set up in the very beginning for the first initial communication, okay, of that sales process. And the important part about that is displayed within good styles and effective parts of communication. Another good examples that I love to give with this, for example, are syllabuses in classes from teachers, right? Teachers don't come into the class and say, hey students, turn around and start teaching. Students are going to sit there like, well, today is Tuesday, what are we doing today? There's no lesson plan on the board. They just start teaching. They didn't say, take your books out and start learning. They didn't say any of that. There's nothing there. A good teacher will come in and say, good morning class, how you doing? They'll take roll, or they'll do this, they'll do that. How was your day? Awesome. They'll say, today we're going to do this, 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 and then after that we'll do this. Then we'll do the homework, and I'll write it up here. Then after that, we'll dismiss, and I'll see you tomorrow after that. They lay the groundwork. Another fantastic example of this is board meetings or objective meetings, okay, or target meetings. When a group is set with a task and they need to create certain goals to achieve that objective. Okay, they are usually led by a leader. They're led by a professional, a sales professional just like you. When they go into some sort of meeting or interaction, the professional will go out and they'll hand out objective lists. They'll say, we need this, this, and this, and this, and this. We're going to spend this much time on this much time on this much time on this. Now, a lot of us have been in board meetings where this doesn't take place, and it's a brainstorming session. That's the purpose. But other than that, anything objective-wise, without that initial syllabus or list or steps of the sale or process or parts of the confident introduction, you'll waste easily 45 minutes to an hour and nothing will get done. Nothing will be achieved because you get off on tangents. You have to have a communication process, and that's part of the confident introduction, and that's how important it is. Okay? That leads us to step number 3, and then I'll give you my pitch when I walk into pretty much any business or any board meeting whatsoever to give you the structure of why it's important to have the first 7-second bias be positive and super good, but then also how does it lead into that confident introduction for the board or anyone else. The narrative hook is the thing at the end that is almost a pre-trial close or a litmus test or a close that is a common understanding that you have to facilitate your job. Okay, now that's not without pitching. And this is extremely important with high ticket sales, low ticket sales, and the top 1% have this within their first part of their introduction no matter what, whether it's through an email or whatever. And the narrative hook is that little part that gets you to go to the next step, right? We call it a narrative hook in literature, which means that there's got to be something at the end of that paragraph that keeps that person reading at the end of the paper or whatever it is, the very beginning of the steps of the sale, that introduction that gets you to keep reading, or the headline that's good enough to get you to keep reading the article. The narrative hook in sales in this situation is something at the very end that is the litmus test. It's the first pre-trial close or the green light in the situation. And it goes something like this, right? It's where you give your whatever and the narrative hook is, and then at the end of this, we'll present it to the group we'll display our findings, we'll try and provide a solution where both parties are happy, and then at the very end, if both parties are good to go, we'll move forward with the sale. We'll move forward with the authorization on the agreement. We'll move forward on this. We'll move forward on that. Right? We'll display we'll display the agreement, and we'll authorize it and move forward within that process. Okay, to continue on. Whatever it is, that narrative hook is you're displaying it, and then you get the confirmation from the opposing party or your potential customer. And once they agree to that, now everyone in the board in the room or the merchant has in the back of their head, they're going to ask for business. That's your job. Our job's not to display and hope. Okay, our job is to display and move forward, right? And cater a program that will go for the close, okay? So to mix this, we're gonna talk about first off to set up the counsel space. We're gonna go through the confident introduction that I would use, and then also the narrative hook as an agent, okay? And I hope this helps newer agents out there. So I would walk in and say, hey, good morning, how you doing, John? My name's Carson Cook, and we talked a little bit yesterday. The call center had set you with an appointment, or I came in and I set it myself, either or. So I'd say, hey, John, well, great. Hey, it's good to meet with you. Thanks a lot for meeting with you. I know that your time is very valuable, so we'll get right to the point, and we'll see if we can have some constructive conversation here and achieve some objectives, and make sure that our product would actually work for you, and make sure that you'd be a partner for us. So we'd be great. So do you mind if we go sit over here? Yeah, sure. So now they've came over to me. I've kind of taken control in the own space. I've set up my counsel space, and I'll sit down and I'll set up a formal introduction. I'll say, hey, how you doing? Well, like I said before, my name is Carson Cook, and I work with a company called GoFreePay. And what we do is we do corporate level credit card processing. We specialize in a few different programs, some that are taken on by some corporate giants here in the United States, and some that are not. And my job is to come in here, and it's to get to know you, and it's to get to know your business. Once we get to know your business a little bit, and we actually qualify you, and we find out more about how we can cater our program to you to make it custom, then what we do after that is we actually take that information, we put it together, and we see if we can get you qualified. And then if we can, given the various programs, I actually make a call into the corporate office to get more information from them to make sure that everything's fine. Then we present it to you. And we cater it to you the right way, and then if you're happy, if you're satisfied, and we're satisfied with the whole interaction, and we find the right solution for you, then we go ahead and we move forward and we set you up. So how does that sound? The narrative hook at the end. Okay, so I'm physically telling them that I will ask for their business at the end of this communication, no matter what. This is high ticket sales, low ticket sales, board of directors sales, doesn't matter. You present the idea, you let the whole board know that we will be asking for business at the end of this interaction. Usually the ones that win the bid, usually the ones that win the business are the ones that are extremely forward with their communication. They're precise and they're tight, but everybody in the room understands that there is an objective. There is a treasure map to the end of the close, and there is a way to do it, right? So that is how you use these processes within the first part of the sales process, which is highly valuable, super important, because this is going to set the tone for the rest of the sale. You say, oh, it sets the tone. It's not just the tone, it's the foundation for which every single decision your potential client or customer will make, not only on you, but your company and your product and your process. And if you have that defined, you have that solid, and you have that structured, the rest of the steps of the sale, guys, going down the process will be a little bit easier, and you need every chance that you can get, especially in a competitive environment. Increase your opportunities, increase your chances, and you'll find the right path for success and the right path for the win. So keep selling out there, guys. Rock and roll. Have a super solid sales week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for dealing with my stupid attire, and I will see all you guys out there on the sales board, guys. Thanks for tuning in.